I'm just such a flower clip girly. Shout out to Wishlist. Hi my douchies, welcome back to the Alchemize Podcast. My name is Destiny, I am your host, and I use the internet as my personal journal where I speak about whatever I want. Today's topic is for everyone who knows what the word survival mode means. If you do, I'm sorry. And if you don't, you're gonna find out today. Basically, survival mode is a state in which chronic stress in your life, a lot of the times earlier in life, creates a state of fight or flight inside of you, which usually happens when we're in immediate danger. But in this case, you're chronically within that state, so your body becomes high alert all of the time. And so you're always looking out for danger in your environment, even when you're relatively safe. Now, living in a survival mode means that you're often not thinking about the future. You're mostly worried about whether or not you're going to survive the present. And so your future isn't something that you're focused on. A lot of kids growing up think about careers and what they would like to do with their lives and how they would like to spend it. Maybe they want to become doctors, astronauts, they dream big. A lot of kids who are raised in turbulent homes don't really have the bandwidth mentally to be thinking about the future because they're very focused on surviving day to day. And so if you have been raised in that type of environment, it's very easy to keep yourself in that survival mode even once you've been able to escape or surpass the difficult part in your life. It can be at home, it could have been at school when you were growing up, whether or not you're somebody who was bullied or somebody who had to deal with different things that were not so fun. So it doesn't have to mean that home necessarily was the problem, but there are a lot of factors within somebody's upbringing that can affect whether or not they will be in a, I was about to say calorie deficit. Oh my God, in a survival mode when they are developed. And a lot of the times this creates a sort of gap in the sense that when you finally get to a place where you don't have to be thinking in terms of, am I in danger or not in danger? You don't really know what to do with yourself. For example, there's some kids who grow up and they think about what they're gonna be when they grow up. Maybe they wanna be doctors, astronauts, firefighters, whatever it is that comes up to mind. But if you've been living your life in survival mode, you don't really have the mental bandwidth to be thinking about what your future self could be doing. You're very focused on surviving today, right now. For me personally, I remember times in my life where I was thinking about the future, but eventually my future became more and more, let's say, narrow, in the sense that I wasn't thinking very far ahead in life. I was just trying to make sure that I could make it to tomorrow. But once you've surpassed that and you've come to a place in your life where you're calm, where you're in a non-dangerous, quote unquote, environment, that's when you now need to find your way back to your purpose. Because a lot of the times, because you haven't really given the future much thought, you don't really have an idea of what you want to do with yourself. You knew that you wanted to survive. You knew that you needed to get out of a situation. You knew that you needed to escape. But now that life is peaceful and there's nothing that you're truly like running from, how do you navigate a safe place with a body that's still looking for danger? That's the $1 million question. I think it starts with healing your nervous system, because that's actually what's being triggered when you are in survival mode. You're highly alert. You're always thinking that something or someone is going to jump out at you. And so it's important to allow yourself to let go of some of the traumas that have created this survival mode within you, and then get a chance to truly experience the peace that the environment that you are creating for yourself has now given you. I think we need to give ourselves a lot more credit for where we find ourselves in life, especially if you have had a hard time growing up. You have to remember that not everyone makes it to where you are. And so the fact that you're alive, well, and thriving is a miracle in and of itself. So first of all, you got to give yourself a big pat on the back for making it and for being alive and well and happy and thriving. Once you've done that, you can work on believing it instead of just seeing it, because it's easy to objectively know that, okay, I'm not in danger anymore, life is good, there's not a problem. Like, your mind knows, but your body might not have adjusted yet to this new reality. And when you aren't aligned mentally and somatically, and so with your body, you can't truly get to a place where you can think further into the future, because daydreaming, thinking about the future, allowing yourself to create plans for the long term, all that requires a sense of calm and safety within you to be able to happen. If you don't have that, it's very hard for you to think long term. Another aspect that could help you is to just allow yourself to be a little more cheerful, let's say. I know that living in survival mode or experiencing a lot of things kind of makes you become the type of person that's always looking out for problems, and that doesn't trust easily, and that doesn't allow happiness to come in if you have a feeling that it might be taken away. And so a lot of time what happens is you become a little bit jaded because you're always anticipating that something might go wrong. And so you don't allow yourself to just be surprised by life. You plan ahead and you try to predict what's going to happen before you give life a chance to actually unfold. And sometimes you ruin things for yourself that way, you know? It can be innocent things. It could even be that maybe you grew up and you were never sure how your caregiver was going to show up in your life. So you had to anticipate their every move. But now your husband, wife, your partner is trying to plan a surprise for you. And of course, maybe they're a little obvious and you can tell that they're hiding something. And so now you're on high alert and you're trying to figure out what's going on. Why are they acting like this? Why are they being so weird? And turns out they were just planning a surprise for you, and now you've ruined it because you went snooping and figured it all out, you know? That's just a small example of how when you're still in survival mode and how you're still trying to anticipate life before it happens, because not anticipating life was dangerous to you before, how it can actually rob you of potential joy. And so instead of being jaded and just knowing what might happen and always anticipating the worst thing ever, is to just allow life to happen, allow it to unfold. Because there's no higher morality to being smart and knowing exactly what's going to happen and not allowing yourself to experience it in joy or in sadness. You're just being kind of a Debbie Downer. And I noticed that when I do allow myself to just be surprised and to just feel things without having this armor that stops it from coming to me, because life is about feeling all the spectrum of your emotions and everything that might happen around you. Now, sure, it could have been that back in the day when you were growing up, it was hard for you to allow yourself to keep feeling what you're feeling because all you were experiencing was negativity. But once you reach a point where negativity becomes less of the default in your life, you can block out your utmost happiness if you're still holding on to that armor and you're still afraid of feeling fully. And so when you allow yourself the safety to feel fully, that's when you can also tap into what your purpose might be. Because you can't pursue what you truly want in this life if you're not ready to look a scary situation in the eye and face it. For example, if you really want to become a doctor, you know that you need to go through medical school. And people say that medical school is pretty rough. I wouldn't do it myself. But you want to become a doctor. That's your biggest dream. That's your purpose. That's what you truly want to do. So you need to be able to deal with the stresses of medical school to become what you want to be. And so in that same way, the only way that you can handle medical school is if you have created enough safety within yourself by healing your survival mode in order to look at medical school and say, bring it on, I can do this. So that's an example of how you can put that in practice. But I think all by all, what I'm trying to say is, first of all, to not allow your past to define what your future is going to look like. If at any point in your life you've had to be in survival mode, allow yourself to shed it, because you know that you've created a life for yourself now that requires way less of that tension inside of you. And you're gonna feel way better when you can let it go. Apart from that, once you've shed that heaviness, it's easier for you to think about further things in life. You know, I know that life can be a little bit hard because sometimes you're not even sure if you're gonna wake up tomorrow. So when you do wake up tomorrow and now you have a future to worry about, it's hard to think in the long term. But once you get over that hump, there are beautiful possibilities for you to explore. And this life is full of ups and downs, so don't be afraid of feeling both the good fully and the bad fully, because you know that if you got yourself through the situations that really hurt you in the past, then you can definitely face whatever may come in the future as well. So believe in your inner strength, believe that you are capable to fulfill whatever purpose you have, and don't be afraid of looking at your true desires, because sometimes you could feel like your potential might draw too many eyes on you. It might bring on too many expectations. It might make you too, let's say, visible. But remember that you're not only doing this for yourself, you're also doing this for others. So whenever you grow and you live up to your expectations and your potential, you're doing this because you can help others with what you have to offer. It's not just for you. Everything that you do, your purpose, will always be in service of others in some way or another. So if you think about it like that, it'll be way less scary to jump into it, because you know that you're being selfless when you're actually following your purpose. And so if you keep those things in mind, then survival mode will be a thing of the past. So that's all I wanted to say for today. Thank you so much, my douchies. I'm a little bit sick, but I'm so happy that I got to make this episode anyway, because it was just ruminating in the back of my mind. I was like, I want to talk about this, but I'm not sure how to formulate it well. So I hope this comes across the way that I hope it does. And I thank you guys for sitting with me and listening, and I hope you feel my vibe. And that's it. Have a wonderful day, my douchies. See you next time on the Alchemize Podcast. Bye, my douchies.